What cringy things did you do as a teen? I spent most of my time in class making arm bandages out of masking tape. When I was finished, I'd write Used and My Chemical Romance lyrics on them. I'd also sit under my desk sometimes. At the time, I was getting tested for a brain tumor and all the teachers had been informed, so they just kind of let me do whatever. I once literally wrote the word trouble all over me with a Sharpie and took a shirtless pic to post to MySpace. I was like a super skinny emo kid. Oh god, why did you remind me of this? That is amazing. Figured out my life. At 16, I got a part-time job bagging groceries. I had a girlfriend. I didn't need anything else my life. I could support Heather and myself on my 9 hours a week, and I'm pretty sure, under minimum wage job. Frick school. A real thing I said to my mom was, "You don't understand love." She had been married to my dad for 20 plus years up to this point. What Heather and I have is real. Okay honey, your mom probably. My IG scene kid MySpace name was CLT-saurus WRECKZ. I was 15 and had not yet gotten the message that absolutely nobody wanted their clit to be wrecked. Dear lord. Oh no. I had a big crush on a scene girl when I was a junior, so I bought bright white skinny jeans to try and impress her. She called me Mr. Clean. Oh frick, this reminds me, I used to wear skinny jeans, like really skinny jeans, and I had red, blue, yellow, white, black, pretty much every color. Never again. I was a neckbird, nice guy, white knight, used to write love poems and do the whole lady thing when speaking with a girl I was interested in. I used to protect the honor of girls I fancied by threatening their boyfriends with harm if they ever treated them wrong. 15 plus years ago, and I still cringe hard when my friends make fun of me about it. My whole body just contracted itself into a ball. Where to even start, man? I would take angsty, really awful photos and post them online and call myself a photographer. It was my art. One photo I remember in particular was of an old candle I had found. I poured sparkly red nail polish on it that was supposed to be blood and stuck a bunch of razors in it. It was a reflection of my tortured 13-year-old soul. Oh my god, I took this exactly picture. Also red nail polish dripping down a white candle. Cause I was so pure, but anguished inside. Why did you remind me? So many things. I used to take black and white photos for my MySpace page with half my face covered in some way because insecurities. Then to top it off, I'd put My Chemical Romance lyrics on every picture to show how deep I was. Super cringy. Teenagers scare the living shit out of me. In secondary school, about halfway through, I thought it would be genius to pretend I was American. I'm from London, and had known some of these people from primary school. I would go around teaching people how we American people talk. So if someone said something British, that is rubbish, holiday, pavement, I'd get firmly on my horse and say it's actually garbage, vacation, sidewalk, and saunter off. I hate myself. Meanwhile, across the ocean, little edgy Americans are pretending to be British. Me at 13 made my GF sit through the entire Linkin Park Hybrid Theory album to explain why we couldn't be together anymore. Me, at 12, decided to be a part of the school talent contest. I thought it would be entirely appropriate to do Steve Allen's version of Donna Summer's Hot Stuff, where he reads the lyrics, you know, because a 12-year-old girl can totally pull off a dirty comedy routine done by a middle-aged man. I freaking love this. When I was 11, I decided to do stand-up at our talent show. More specifically, I decided to do Steve Martin's exact routine. Picture an 11-year-old girl with a novelty arrow headband and a dead audience. This was in like 2002. Birds of a feather, I'm telling you. I was at a sleepover from a girl I had a crush on when I was 14. After that sleepover, she wanted to go shopping with some of her friends that also stayed the night. I asked if I could accompany them. They were clearly trying to tell me they didn't want me to accompany them, but I didn't get the hints. In the end, they ran away as fast as they could, pretending to run to get the bus. At first I tried to follow them, but then I finally understood and stopped midway, asking myself how stupid I could be. This hurts, but at least you became aware of your cringe. Pierced my eyebrow with a safety pin. Yup, tried to do my lip with a safety pin. Got it halfway through the skin and realized two things. 1. Skin is a lot hard to puncture than I thought, and 2. I'm way less hardcore than I thought. I spoke with an American accent. I'm British. In 9th grade, I carried around Infinite Jest by David Foster Wallace just to look smart. Didn't make it through the first 100 pages. It sits on my desk currently. I read the first 30 pages and could feel myself becoming pretentious. Was at a birthday party and had to pee. Decided to step toward the edge of the woods and let it flow. Then heard a scream. Peed on my girlfriend's best friend while she hid during a game of hide and seek. Interesting relationship after that. Found you. Now it's my turn to hide. Jeff, I don't wanna play hide and go pee anymore. It's weird. I read the book Peeps by Scott Westerfeld in like 6th grade, and in the book the main character put a rubber band on his wrist and snapped it whenever he had a sexual desire, in an attempt to eradicate the urge. 12-year-old me decided to try the same, and whenever I was around my crush, I would snap my rubber band, hoping that they had read the book and would realize that by me snapping my band I was trying to tell him that I liked him. Thinking back, I probably looked like an idiotic preteen that likes inflicting minuscule amounts of pain upon herself. Got really into vampires, to the point where I used to pretend I was one. In school I thought I was so cool and edgy when I asked people what blood type they were. Frick, I wish I could punch younger me. I had a similar period with werewolves. I didn't talk about it to anyone, but I used to chew on chicken bones to show how savage I was. The same crap my 2 teenagers are currently doing. That's right folks, you have to experience it all again. It's a cringe fest. My oldest, turning 12 in a few months, is in a Britney Sonic TF2 phase. Several days ago he played an angsty Britney song about depression at top volume for 2 hours because his sister refused to speak to him. I'm just over here quietly screaming and wondering how I could have possibly prevented this, aside from never ever showing him the internet. Wear my hair over my eyes. Raccoon eye makeup. My middle nephew did this thing with his hair where he'd wear it over his eyes, then flip it out of the way of his eyes, then immediately shake his head so the hair was back in his eyes. Oddest frickin' thing to watch someone do voluntarily. Take pictures of me working out with cheap ass shades on, and then send it to girls who asked for a pic on Yahoo Chat. I was scrawny F2. Cringe so hard thinking about those pictures. Those girls were all old skeezy dudes. I wore Hawaiian shirts every day. Every goddamn day. What was I thinking? That was my style through most of high school. Khaki shorts, some snarky t-shirt, and a Hawaiian shirt over it. At least we were ready if a luau broke out. I was basically a decent collection of guys and all generation material. I was one of those guys who unironically whined about the friend zone and how girls don't like me because I'm too nice to them, even though I was obnoxious, clingy, immature, and had no sense of self-confidence or awareness. On top of that, I also had one of those I'm such a classy gentleman because I don't drink or party, and I only listen to good music complexes. In reality at the time I listened to mainstream classic rock, and just barely entry-level indie music. Also, the only reason I didn't drink party is because my parents were strict, and so I created a sort of superiority complex to justify it to myself. Fox and grapes type mentality. The truth is I spent a lot of time being bitter and trying to put myself on some pedestal, when in reality most of the people I went to high school with were really cool people, and had I just chilled and learned to be myself and let others be themselves, I probably would have had a much better time. Congratulations on your journey to self-awareness. In elementary school I was in love with a boy in my class. I didn't dare to say a thing to him, so instead, I kicked him in the crotch with full power and without warning. That got his attention. I can relate. I tried to stab my cute neighbor with a stick. That'll get his attention. My parents made me give him all my Easter chocolate as punishment. I was such a weirdo. Crushed so hard I did a tattoo of his initials on my palm, which consisted of putting ink on a piece of cotton and threading it through the top layer of skin. Lasted about 2 days before it washed out. Seen hair, but I was too lazy to actually style it, so it just looked like bad anime hair. To be fair, that's just what seen hair looks like. Let me set the scene. I was a scrawny Swede fresh off the plane in Australia. My English was pretty good all things considered, but definitely not up to task here. It is my first day at my new school. I'd been super polite all day, smiled at everyone, joined in on the recess games at which I sucked, and so at the end of the day I think I've done pretty well. I'm proud of my efforts. We are now all sat on the floor listening to our teacher telling us about our homework for the next day, and she explains to me, in passing, that we need to write down all such information in our diaries, calendar type thing. She asks one of the girls in class to show me where and what to write. At this point, for some reason I cannot fathom, I decide to impress my new classmates by doing one of those ninja flips onto my feet, despite the fact that I was very much unable to perform this maneuver. I rock onto my back, lift my legs in the air and let rip a thundering fart in the general direction of my teacher, lying in bed at night. If that memory strikes me, I pull my covers over my head and curl up. I was so obnoxious and claimed that I was so different and that no one could understand me. Oh, and I would also say things like I'm not like the other girls. I don't like having girlfriends. There's always too much drama while being queen of the drama queens myself. Only wore black and neon pink clothes. Yeah, think about bright neon pink pants and a t-shirt with feathers round the edges. Oh yeah, and I called myself a fairy. Even made big fairy wings that I actually wore on the street. OMG, I'm cringing right now just thinking about it. My parents let me do it because they thought it would be funny to remind me of this later when I grew out of the phase. Of course at the time I'd be like, but moo, it's not a farce, I'm a fairy, that's who I am. God, if I could go back in time I'd punch myself in the face. I feel embarrassed on your behalf. As a preteen, I would stand with the mannequins in the front of shop windows and pose like them. I thought no one could tell that I was real. I dated a 32-year-old recently who thought I was really lame for not thinking that was a hilarious thing to do with him. I read my teenage diaries recently. The narcissism was off the charts. I genuinely was convinced I was so bloody clever and no one could ever understand the complexity of my thoughts. What rubbish. I let a dude pee on my foot at a party because I thought it would make me look cool and aloof. I was just known as pissy foot girl until I blessedly moved far, far away. Hey, it's that cool and aloof girl who lets guys pee on her feet. Used to sneak around school to spy on all the boys I had crushes on. I eventually grew out of this phase, but occasionally catch myself spying on my husband because he's a cutie, and because you can't trust nobody. As a mixed person raised by my white family, my entire life has been an identity crisis. I went through every kind of phase in the book. Emo phase, I would wear as many bracelets and I could fit on both arms. I looked crazy but refused to believe it. I also wore a very bad comb-over and everyone told me it was bad but I didn't believe it. Country phase, I wore cowboy boots 5 sizes too small to fit in, and pretended to be obsessed with Tim McGraw to the point my mom bought me concert tickets. Weeaboo phase, I knew nothing about anime but made Pokemon noises randomly, and I only knew 3 Pokemon at that time: Pikachu, Bellossom, and Charizard. Girly girl phase, wore a headband with a bow on it every day and only ballet flats with crew cut white socks because that's all my mom would buy me. 90s phase, somewhere around 17 years old. I was only born in 97. I ripped up every single piece of clothing I owned and put holes in it for no reason. I was super weeaboo in early high school. I'm still really into anime but now I don't refer to myself in first person adding chan at the end, or run like Naruto characters. The weeaboo faded around junior year high school into a normal person who liked anime, but the worst was this massive binder me and my friends had of Naruto pictures and comics. We had a bio page for each character including their stats, age, birth date. Then we had comics where we would add our own little comments and responses. Looking back it was cringy, but at the same time that binder was super freaking organized and well managed by a bunch of 13-year-olds. I think we put more effort into that binder than we ever did any of our school projects. That binder actually sounds kind of nice. Like, it sounds like it was a nice group activity. I had a set of decorative swords. So, I'd go about my room pretending to fight someone as if I was in a movie or some crap lol. I'm just glad I never got caught. Careful not to film yourself, George Michael. I was one of those wrong generation kids who thought I was superior for listening to classic rock and prog rock metal, and that modern music was all crap and not real music. I'm not exactly proud of that phase. At least you grew out of it. I know loads of people who still do this. I can't believe I'm posting this, but I used to buy those cans of spray hair dye, specifically blue, gel my hair on the sides to form two horns and then apply the hair dye. I did this until about junior year when the school administrator called my house. They were complaining about the smell of the dye and how I'd always run through the halls making a who 00000 wash sound. Jesus. I was pale and wore baby powder as face powder, thus adding to my lack of color. Live vicariously through my classmates, to the point that I never had any real relationships because I felt like I wasn't capable of handling them. Instead, I manipulated classmates I was attracted to into getting into relationships with each other so I could vicariously experience the relationships from both sides. I haven't spoken to anyone from high school in years, and if I ever run into any of my old classmates I'll likely have a lot of apologies to make. Though to be fair, if that's how I was at the time, then I probably really was in no way ready for a relationship. Real world Sims. I didn't wash enough and smelled too much. My brother's friends smelled like a pond. They used to congregate in my parents' house and stink the place out. We used to call them the hamster cage. Okay, ages 12-14 I was a weeaboo, furry, a nice guy, an incel. Didn't exist then, but if it did I would be a subscriber to it, a neckbird, and I claimed I was bi. I wish none of that happened. You have been visited by the source Chihuahua. You will be blessed with good pasta, but only if you comment simmer well. Papa simmer well papa. Like and subscribe, you magnificent person.